Hi, everyone. I want to continue with this series of talks about mental distancing. So let's just recap briefly and state a couple of major points. In the first video, which titled Mental Distancing Part 1, Steps 1 and 2, Step 1 was noticing perceptions, noticing sensations, noticing things like a bird call or a sound. Could be a lawnmower in the distance, could be a fan, could be the sound of someone talking, could be a car passing by. And so the first step was notice those objects of perception. And then I asked you to notice that there was noticing. I call that part 1, step 2, noticing the noticing, becoming aware of awareness, observing the observer. And all this really is, in part, creating an artificial separation, which is what I'm calling mental distancing. Now, for objects what we perceive as being outside of ourselves, it would be very silly if I said something like, I'm really melodious this morning, when hearing, say, a bird call. Or let's say there's a sound of a lawnmower in the distance. You don't think to yourself, oh, I'm really kind of gravelly and engine sounding. No, we already assume separation with physical objects. So it doesn't make any sense, right? Objects of perception we don't think of as being us. But now this is interesting because in the second video, I talked about thoughts. And I also asked you to consider that thoughts are just objects of perception. Let's stay with sound. Sound is heard. Hearing happens. We don't think of it as me, but we're aware that we're aware of the sound and the object. Now, thoughts we treat differently. Thoughts appear to arise on the inside. Appear, I say that. And that's going to be the focus of the rest of this talk once I get past this intro. In that second video, I was making the point that thoughts are just another object of perception, just like sounds are, just like tastes and smells and physical sensations. Thoughts and emotions, thoughts and feelings are just objects of perception. And so the separation here, the real mental distancing here, is to become aware that you're aware of thoughts. And we all are. I hear complaints. My thoughts are unruly, or maybe somebody's having difficulty meditating because their thoughts, they can't stop their thoughts, or their thoughts are running amok, or they just can't focus. Right? So that means there's awareness of thoughts. And the fact that you could even talk about that means that there's awareness of thoughts. But here's a crucial distinction. Just like we don't identify with the bird sound or the lawnmower sound or whatever it is, we do identify with our thoughts. We think the thoughts are ours. Which is why I just kind of asked you to create some mental distancing from those thoughts. So if I didn't explain that last part very well in the first two videos, I wanted to be very clear about that. The problem is that we identify with our thoughts. We think the thoughts are ours. And so I asked you to create some mental distance. Well, let's now take this a step farther. Here, what's happening is some integration. I want to focus back on awareness. So call this step 1, part 3. I want you to close your eyes. I want you to turn your attention on itself. Attention, paying attention to attention. Awareness, aware of awareness. Can you find any boundaries or edges to your awareness? And I say yours. I use dualistic language here. It's not yours, but let's just maybe clean my language up a little bit. Can you find any edges to awareness? Really look. Can you find any boundaries? Can you identify anything that is beyond your awareness? In other words, can you be aware of not being aware? What's beyond? If you say there's an edge, what's beyond the edge? Are you aware of that? It's impossible. If there's a boundary, what's beyond the boundary? Are you aware of what's beyond the boundary? Can you articulate to me? Can you tell me your experience of being beyond the boundary of your awareness? Silly, isn't it? You can't. You can't. This one's a little more difficult. Can you find a center to your awareness? Can you find a center to your awareness? I say it's more difficult because we tend to think maybe that awareness isn't here, that this is the center, that it feels localized. Maybe it feels actually even localized in your head. But is that true? You might feel that thoughts might be localized in your head, for example. That seems to be a common experience. We always point to our head and you're thinking too much, for example. But if you really look, where is awareness? Is there a center to awareness? How far does awareness extend? When does awareness happen? I could spend time in each of these different points, and I'd never finish this video. There's no boundaries, there's no edges, there's no centers. Where is this awareness? Good questions to explore in meditation. Where is this awareness? Now this leads us to the next part, which I think I'm going to put in a separate video. I want to keep these short. Okay, so hang on just a second. I have to actually create the next video.